Thank you for having me. I say it in this work that getting me to talk about this stuff is really easy because I love it so much, but getting me to shut up requires a whole different skill set. So thank you for having me. I tell you, I have a history of making seemingly impossible things happen. I guess I was about 22 years old. And I decided that I wanted to be an NCAA ice hockey player. And there were two things standing in my way. Number one, I was failing out of my junior college. And the second thing, number two, was I had never ice skated before. But fast forward about 18 months, I was leading that team into the state championship. I was a points leader that season. Um, and what I learned is that there's a science to making things happen, to optimizing yourself, to creating seemingly impossible goals and dreams and bringing them into fruition. Because I'm not special in this regard. There's nothing particularly unique about me in this regard. And if there were, it would be a problematic because personality doesn't scale, but science does. And so I'm going to share with you some of the tools and concepts that we work with in my organization to produce the kind of results that we do. I'll give an example. I was working with a business owner in Dallas, and she hired us for what I'll call the standard business performance kind of things, better clients, more clients, growing the revenues, that kind of stuff. But she had some other issues going on in her personal life. And the way the brain works is that how you do everything is how you do everything. And so if you have friction at home, you have friction at work. And so fast forward, I think we worked, she was married to a clinical narcissist, which is a real problem. And I know we kind of throw that word around a lot these days, but I mean, like the real deal, y'all know what I'm talking about, the clinical real deal. And she needed to get a divorce. So we got her divorced. We got the house in the divorce, and then we got the house refinanced so that she was better resourced and a lot less stressed out. We were able to get her off of her anti-anxiety and her anti-depression medication that she'd been on for a couple of decades. She dropped 45 pounds through this process. We more than doubled her business. All of this happened inside of 13 months. And so where she is today is she wakes up in a completely different life, in a completely different reality. We had another one that said we doubled her revenues, we eliminated her stress, and we saved her marriage. That took us 4 months. And so when it comes to achieving the seemingly impossible and it comes to getting what you really want in this world, the first thing is you have to believe that it's possible. And the humans, there's something called the Bannister principle. In the early to mid 1900s, the world had this crazy idea that it wanted to watch a human being run a mile in under 4 minutes. And this had never been done before. The scientists, the physicians, everybody said that you can't do it. It's not physically possible for a human. If they pull it off, it'll actually kill you. In May of 1954, this guy, Roger Bannister, he's an English guy, he was the first man to pull it off. 3 minutes, 59 seconds. He ran a mile in under 4 minutes. Now, after decades of people trying to accomplish this feat, his record only lasted 46 days. Once Bannister crossed the finish line, everybody knew that it was in fact possible. And once something becomes possible in your mind, it becomes possible in your life. And so this is the first tool, is buy in to the crazy idea that what if I'm wrong? What if there is a way to make this happen? Now, humans are going to be resistant to this because we are oriented towards the comfortable, the safe, the familiar, right? Whatever we perceive as humans to be familiar, we perceive that as safe, it's comfortable, that's what we understand. And so when we're going after something that we've never had before, never done before, the first thing is like, well, it can't be done. And that keeps us in the familiar and in a perception of safety. And so doing something new like this feels very unsafe to the human system. And so that's why we sort of hold ourselves back and limit ourselves, because it's a function of feeling secure and safe. And so while the human system, the human animal loves familiarity and safety, call it the soul, really loves novelty and expansion and new. And so how do we challenge ourselves to push through these things? And that's the first thing, is ask that question. Well, let's say just for funsies here that it is possible. how might that be true? How could that maybe be the case? Now, you might understand a thing or two about neuroscience and kind of how the brain works, and so and so. But I'll give you maybe it's a refresher for you. But everybody has an operating system in their head, just like a phone or a computer. You have an operating system. We call it a belief system. This is your understanding of reality. Now, you as a human are the sole architect of this system. And you finished coding this system by about the time you were 6 years old. And so what happens in humans is that operating system that we have, it gives birth to every single thought we have. Now, as soon as you have a thought, you experience it as a feeling. So mad, sad, glad, fear, shame, guilt, love, surprise, disgust, whatever. There's about, depending on what site you source, there's 27 to 34 feelings in the human experience. And every time you have a thought, you experience it as a feeling. Now, feelings then drive our actions. Now, I know humans, we like to think that we're rational and we are logical, and we are not. We are emotional beasties, and that is what drives our actions. And of course, our actions then produce results. And so you've got the system that generates the thought that you experience as a feeling, that drives your actions, that produce the result. Now, here's where humans get weird. The results that we produce are subconsciously pre-designed to validate the system that starts it all. So it's like this feedback loop running around in your head, creating, validating, and recreating the reality of your understanding. And it's all oriented around keeping us safe. And so to buy into the idea that there is a way to do the thing that you really want, that's step one. When you start asking the question how to do it, that activates the creative centers of the brain. When we're in, here's all the reasons I can't do this, I can't because of that, here's all the justifications and the explanations, it really does shut down certain parts of the brain. And you got the neocortex. It's an ongoing calculation of all your experiences through history that's basically proven to you that you are right, that your history, that your understanding of reality is all correct and whatever. But that's not the part of the brain that we need. We need the creative center of the brain to light up and be like, well, wait, we need new, we need different, we need creative, we need innovative. And that's not the part of the brain that's just been, creating a predictive model of the future based on your history. And so, and that's kind of what humans do, right? So we create, validate, recreate the reality of our understanding in order to keep us safe. And so what I like to start, and feel free to, I would love to hear some feedback and responses on this if you're willing and available. What do you want? And I like to ask this question to clients, and I ask it 3 times in 3 ways. The first thing I'll say is, what do you want? And then they'll tell me. And then I'll say, okay, but what do you really want? And then they might expand a little bit more. And I'll say, okay, great, but what is it you really, really want? Most of the time, in my experience with clients, they base what they want in what they have or what they believe they can have. And so they're already leaving something on the table. So strength and joy, I see. You want strength and joy. So I'd have to get a follow-up question on that in terms of what does strength look like? What kind of strength? Are we talking about emotional strength? Are we talking physical, psychological, mental? What kind of strength are you looking for? And what is different than the strength that you have already experienced or that you understand? Like, what is the delta between those two things? Joy is an interesting one, because joy is not something to be had or chased or gotten. It is something that we generate. Enthusiasm, joy. This is a result of something that we generate. So, where is your joy within you? What is your expression of joy? What does that look like? Because if we go down the rabbit hole of thinking, okay, this is something that we need to get, then we're going to chase it outside of us, and this creates a dependency. So if I can get it outside of me, then I have joy. If I don't, then I don't. And that dependency is going to create a real problem in how I create my universe. And so um, I would also say that humans are, we're not exactly designed to be happy. This is a little weird, and this is kind of a Joe Dispenza thing, if you're familiar with the author Dr. Joe Dispenza. But humans are designed to experience happiness, normalize it, and then want more of it. Because that's what keeps us evolving and advancing as people. The other thing is that people tend to chase pleasure more than they do happiness, and those are not the same thing. Pleasure could be junk food or something, but real happiness is a result of meaning. And so, and Jordan Peterson talks a little bit about this, but the happiness comes from meaning. So if you chase happiness, if you're chasing pleasure, that's fleeting. It's kind of like cocaine. You're going to get high and then you're going to crash. It's not going to be fun, nor particularly healthy. If you chase happiness, you can create this dependency. But if you chase meaning, and that is where the happiness ultimately comes from. And so, I'd invite you to consider, what is the joy? What is the happiness? What is the meaning? Are you focused on the right thing here? Better focus. Okay, so I see this in the chat too, that you want better focus. Now this, is there a diagnosis of ADHD or something like that that can get in your way? But in this day and age, we are all crackheads. When we talk about dopamine, right, in the brain, it's basically cocaine. There's like a street drug version of all the neurotransmitters in the brain. So dopamine would be cocaine, and we are all crackheads. The dopamine fix, the high. We are neurochemically addicted to notifications on our phone. Every time we get that ding, we hear that, we see that notification, we get a little dopamine hit. Social media, you get the likes and the comments, you get the dopamine hit, right? So focus is going to be a function of weaning yourself off of that kind of crack, so that you can get yourself off that pleasure seeking. I know people they'll sit down to watch a movie on the couch or something. Before the opening credits are over, they're in their phone on their social media because they're not getting their high, right? And so I would really advise anybody in this day and age to do some measurable level of research and investigation on chemical dependency. And I'll say this much about addiction in any form, whatever the addiction is. 100% of addictions are cured by one thing and one thing only: connection, right? Connection is the cure to all addiction. Maybe it's connection to yourself or to your community or to your families or to your church or whatever, but connection is the cure to all addiction. Doubt and just do things without having a backup plan and control everything. This is a great one. Okay, so if you have this need for control, that is generally created by a feeling of lack of safety. People who don't feel safe need control because it is a compensation for the safety that they don't feel. And so, and I would say, kind of, let's say in a spiritual or cosmic sense, that safety, we spend a lot of energy trying to create the illusion of safety to compensate for the illusion that we are unsafe. Most of the time you're safe. And again, safety, there's going to be some definitions here. Are we talking emotional, psychological, physical safety? There's different things here. I would say that if you're seeking safety and you need that backup plan, backup plans can be very useful if they do a couple of things. I think if, like, let's say, and this is a little hard to do without context, but I'll say that if the backup plan is designed to create enough safety so that you are not in threat response. If you're in fight or flight threat response, it's very hard to think, it's very hard to create, it's very hard to problem solve. When the amygdala hijack happens, you really only have 4 options to solve complex problems: fight, flight, freeze, or faint. That's it, right? And so you're going to need more options and tools and more thinking than that for creative problem solving. And so What I like about backup plans, I had one actually. I had a backup plan when I started this company 11 years ago. I was broke and living out of my car, and I really had nothing other than my friends that were kind enough to put me on a couch and feed me from time to time. Um, and I thought, well, I could try and build this business on the side while I worked a stable job. That wasn't going to work for me because there just wasn't enough heat in my oven to cook that meal. I needed more pressure to get me mobilized. And so I said, okay, well, but I can't have so much pressure that I can't think and I'm in fight or flight threat response. And so the criteria for the backup plan that worked really well for me was number one, it had to work. Okay, so that's otherwise, because if the backup plan doesn't work, then I'm not going to feel safe anyway. And number two, it had to make me miserable. So, because I didn't want my backup plan to become my destiny, right? I wanted my backup plan to just be there to keep me from dying and nothing more. And so the idea of not having this company and having this, like my backup plan was to become an insurance salesman or maybe real estate. Those are great jobs. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not where my heart lied, and it's not what I wanted to do. And so, okay, it's like, yes, I can do that and I will survive, so I'm not going to die. And it's going to make me miserable. So I'm not going to allow that to, I'm not going to allow myself to fall back on that. So if it meets those two criteria, that can help. There are also ways you can de-risk whatever your plan is. I mean, and again, backup plan is not a terrible idea. I will say this much. The overwhelming majority of things that you've ever worried about have never happened, ever. And if they have never happened to the degree that you imagined they might. So because the brain doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality, it only knows what you're telling it, you've already been through the doom and gloom simulator like 1,000 times, probably more. You've thought of all the worst case scenarios. You've gone through all of the drama and trauma of the failure and the shame and all the things. And guess what? You've survived 100% of them. 100%. Here you are. So you've already been through the simulator. You've already had training in this area. So you're going to be fine. The other thing is that it's not the things that we imagine they're going to fail that generally do. It's the thing that we don't see coming that really sidelines us. So so there you can de-risk a lot of this. I would also ask, is there, whatever the scenario is that might happen, is there anything you can do about it? If the answer is no, then let it go. Right? If the answer is yes, it's like, okay, well, what can I do to mitigate this? And put some things in place that might be supportive. Again, all of this is trying to get the noise clear so you're not paralyzing yourself. So let's see. And then now I have one here about vegan for 25 years, ran Mount Beyond 22. Wow, very good. 3,000 feet, less than 6 hours. Wow, impressive. Time on a bike. Okay, 105 pounds. Going to, my own facts, my own motivation is all elements. I have traumatic brain injury despite the neuro charges I'm hearing. So that's really impressive. So, okay, traumatic brain injury despite the neuro changes. I am here until physics is summoned. This is a brilliant example of what we're talking about. Like even physicians, I worked in a hospital. I worked in the Neuro Institute for a little while, and I'm not a huge fan of, no, I'm just going to say it correctly. I don't like being told what I can't do. I don't like, I'm not interested in my own diagnosis. I don't care, they say, well, this is the way it has to be done, or this is the way it typically works, or whatever. I've sort of done it all. I've screwed up in pretty much every way a guy can in this world. I've dealt with the addiction stuff. I've dealt with all kinds of, immoral activities and whatever. And I think I want to say 100%. I'm not sure if that's true, but the overwhelming majority of the percentage of the time, the solution that worked for me was not the solution that everybody said. And the thing that they said I couldn't do, yeah, I can. So even, and there are no shortage of stories about people simply not believing what other people say is reality. And this kind of ties back to my point. There is there's a beautiful story on YouTube. If you do a search on YouTube for Arthur Inspirational, it'll come right up. There's like a half-hour documentary. There's like a 5-minute version. You can watch the 5-minute version and you'll get it. The physician said this guy was a paratrooper. His knees were shot. His back was shot. They said he's never going to be able to walk without braces. He's in a wheelchair, all this kind of stuff. And I'm just going to spoiler alert here, but and please watch this anyway, because I've seen it 1,000 times. It still makes me cry. And there he is at the end of this video defying all the odds because he simply didn't accept that what they were saying was going to be the case. And the human brain has incredible capabilities, many of which we are really not familiar with yet. And the healing properties, the mind-body connection, what the brain can do, we know is well beyond what we know. And so, again, I'll circle back to, what if they're wrong? I know that they have advanced degrees. I know that they've gone through tons of school. I know, but you know what? Everything was impossible until it wasn't. The science was solid until it wasn't, right? Even our understanding of the universe and the solar system, I mean, Copernicus and Galileo Galilei, disrupted 1,500 years of conventional thought when he said, maybe the Earth is not in the middle here. And he was right. And so even when the authorities, the experts tell you that it can't be done, or that you can't do it, or that you are locked into a framework that you don't want to be the case, I would invite you to consider challenging this, because there are no shortage of stories where the authorities, the experts, the ones who supposedly know, did not. And it was only because somebody chose to defy the statistics, the odds, the expected, that they produced a different reality. Reality is malleable. Like, right now, everything that you're experiencing in reality is a result. It's an end result of a system. Everything is a system. The way a business operates is a system. The way a team, a sports team, a corporate team, the way they operate is a system. The way the hospital operates is a system. A person is a system. Reality itself is the end result of a system. Any system can be hacked if you understand how that system works. And the number one hack is, what if there is a way? What if that's not true? I am sure every one of you can come up with a scenario that you have pulled off something that people said couldn't be done. And it might not be a big deal. You know what I mean? It might be something small. I was on a cruise ship once. They said, they're never going to upgrade your cabin. I was like, watch this. And they did. So it might not be seemingly significant, but you have bent your reality before, I can guarantee it. I can jabber on all day. So what else can I share with you that would be supportive or helpful? There's a toolbox. I wrote a book, and there's some tools in there. It's just a toolbox. It's called Renegotiate Your Existence, Unlock Your Impossible Life. And it's got tools and tricks, some of which are shockingly simple and incredibly effective in bending reality and making seemingly impossible things happen. You can also go to the website, chrismking.com. There's all this stuff about me. There's a lot of books on there, actually, other people's books. There's James Clear, Joe Dispenza, there's Stephen Kotler. There are tons of authors on there. So if you need resources, that's the place to do it. Yes, I do have a podcast. Thank you for asking. The podcast is interesting. There's a lot of tools on there as well. I'm going to use a little language here. I'm going to blame my marketing guy because he's the one that came up with the name. But the podcast is on Spotify and it's on Apple. It's called Mindfuck. Yep, I said it. And you will find it. And that's the official podcast where I'm doing one-on-one coaching and consulting sessions with people. They are literally having transformational experience in a matter of minutes. And so it's, and I love doing this work. What else can I do for you?
So, Chris, what is the background behind the title Witch Doctor?
Oh, thank you for asking.
Which executive?
It was a client that said that to me. Wait, I'll tell you what, I actually have my witch doctor hat here. So something that a client said to me, he said, Chris, you're not a coach. And I asked him, well, what am I then? He said, you're some kind of witch doctor, medicine man, shaman, voodoo guy. I was like, okay, cool. I'll buy a hat. And so, because the work that we do and the results that we produce are pretty wild. So yes, book a coaching session with me. That's a fantastic question. I tell you what, sure, we can do that. Send an email to moonshot@chrismking.com. I guess I can put that in the chat if that's helpful.
Chris, can you also type your LinkedIn thing again? URL,
Yes,
please.
I can
Thank you.
certainly do that as well. Let me make sure I spelled this right, me and my fat fingers. Okay, so there's the email address, and then I'll get my LinkedIn as well. All right, there you go. That's how you find me. And yeah, if you have any questions or curious about anything, I'm happy to share. I'm happy to give this stuff away. I just love it so much. So,
Chris, can you type also your book?
oh yes, I'll
The
put the
book,
link in
please.
there as a matter of
Yeah,
fact.
they're asking for the book title.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you. So it is called Renegotiate Your Existence, Unlock Your Impossible Life. You've renegotiated jobs, you've renegotiated your pay salary, you've renegotiated relationships, you've renegotiated pretty much any number of things. You can renegotiate your entire existence on this planet. I know because I've done it.
There was a question, is your book on Amazon?
It is on Amazon. Yeah, I put the link right there in the chat, so you should be able to grab that right there.
What is the YouTube video that you suggested us to see?
Oh, Arthur Inspirational. Here, I'll grab that for you real quick too. Let me get this for you. It's called, yeah, Never Give Up. Here it is. Grab this really quick. And it is a tear jerker, I'll warn you. If you don't cry, then I don't know what to tell you. So somebody says they don't see the links. So if you email me moonshot@chrismking.com, I can make sure you get all the links. That's MOONSHOT @chrismking.com.
Okay. And I will be recording this session also, so they'll be able to hear. And I'll try to put in all the links that you provided as well.
Excellent. Somebody also said they want to spend more time doing what they love and are passionate about. So that's a relatively easy one. Time has a way of expanding and contracting according to how much you think something will take. If you think it's going to take you 6 days, it will. If you think it's going to take you 6 weeks, it will. And so challenging the idea of how long something will take. I go into an organization, I look at all their weekly and monthly meetings and I cut them in half. I just tell them every 1 hour meeting is instantly a 30-minute meeting. They get 40 hours back in their month, like right away. And they get the
How
same
do you
amount done or more.
how do you convince them to, to chop half of the meeting? Is it quantity or time? Because some meetings are like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours,
Yeah, most meetings are an hour because nobody ever validated that it needed to be an hour. It's just sort of like a default setting in our mind. So, what I would say to any organization or any team, whatever the meeting time is, make sure you're very clear who's in that meeting, what gets done in that meeting, and then cut the meeting time in half. I guarantee that you can get the same amount done in that meeting or even more by using half as much time. I do this a lot with executives. We train them in how to reprioritize their lives, but I'll take somebody working 50 to 60 hours a week. I will cut them back to about 32 hours a week. They end up getting 3 to 5 times more accomplished every week. This happens all the time in my world. It's not complicated. It requires behavior modification. That's the tricky part, because this work is very counterintuitive. If you want to get more done, you don't work more hours. You work fewer hours. That's how you make a bigger impact.
Yes, we love that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It really. I share this with people, professionals. I say, look, remember the last time you went on vacation for like 2 weeks? Like you're getting on a plane Friday or whatever, and you're going to be gone for 2 weeks. How much work got done Monday through Thursday that week? 2 or 3 weeks worth of work got done in 4 days. Right? Because they were just focused, directed, making a big impact. They weren't wasting their time at all.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for your time.